All I knew to be resilient was to ask for help. Today's episode is all about resiliency. Now, I talk about commitment a lot. It is working with the willing, it's buy-in as a verb, it's showing up committed because that's the first step of accountability. I can't commit you, you need to do that. But as a leader, I can teach you resilience. Anyone can be resilient if they focus on just enhancing their skill set in two areas. When we study resilient people, we found that they do two things differently than those who aren't resilient, and they're easy. First one, resilient people build networks of positive relationships. This means that you help a lot of people, that you are open to helping them think through how they can move through their own barriers. People who are resilient have big networks of positive relationships, and they ask for help early and often. Now, this doesn't jive with your ego because when you hit upon an obstacle, your ego wants to prove that I can, I must, and that's right where I start to blame because alone, the circumstances do look huge and I'm gonna have a distorted view of the world that says it's not even possible to do what I'm asked to do. But if you're moving beyond ego, and instead of looking down and you think I'm stuck and I need to get narrow and deep and focus on what's in front of me and think harder and work harder, if you simply just look up and look at how abundant all your resources are and you ask for help early and often and not help to do your work, but help to think through your work. What are people's next best tips for getting the work done? You will enhance your resiliency. It's just as simple as crowdsourcing and team sourcing. And in fact, my tail has been saved multiple times, not because I'm able to gut it out. It is because I have some great networks of people who are willing to help me as I've helped them, and I ask for the help. I hope that you do both of those things, and I think you might find that you can bust through a lot more barriers than you think. Sherry P. writes a question, or actually I think it's kind of a statement. She says, I am feeling overwhelmed. I try and keep up with all the changes and all the challenges at work, but I'm getting stuck. I hit some barriers where what I'm being asked to do really does seem impossible. Any suggestions? Sherry, I think you're asking a question that many of us feel, especially when they first hear the reality-based leadership message of just get it done, succeed in spite of the circumstances. People immediately think, aren't there some things that just are impossible or undoable? I want you to really check yourself in three areas because I think in these areas, if you self-reflect, you could find some really cool breakthroughs. The three areas are checking your current thinking, checking your current skill set, and checking your current approach, and seeing if you can't find some breakthroughs in one of those. So let's think about current thinking. When we're given a challenge or an assignment or we greet a barrier, it is very common for our thinking to take a nosedive, for us to very quickly say that's impossible. We are surprised, we panic, we blame, we just don't immediately see how it can happen. But I want you to question your thinking. Henry Ford said, if you believe something possible or impossible, either way you'll be right. And therein lies the breakthrough. Once you believe something's impossible, you go into learned helplessness and you start focusing on why it can't be done rather than how it could be done. I would rather you really check your own thinking and you really question this term impossible or this is going to be hard. Because once you decide something's impossible, what happens to your creativity, your risk-taking, your problem-solving? It all declines accordingly based on the original assumption. So I would rather walk through life believing all things are possible. I just haven't figured it out or met the right people that can help me get it done. The universe is abundant. Second, take a look at your current skill set, because a lot of times when we bump up to something new, we believe it's impossible, and you might be right. With your current skill set, it's not possible, but what if you enhanced your skill set and you grew exactly where the universe was giving you some pain? See, I think where I'm in pain is just the sign of where I need to grow next. So what if you grew your skill set rather than try to change the circumstances, so that you could move through life more skillfully? I think it's the difference of walking through air and swimming through mud. Same circumstances, but I have upped my skills and moved my thinking to a higher frequency. So now I'm approaching a situation with a better mindset and a better skill set. And the third area, it could be as simple as just what's your current approach. When we hit on a barrier, our ego gets us down and narrow and focused, and we start drilling down on, if only I think harder, I need to figure it out, I must make this work. That whole narrowing of our ego focus leads us to, I can't do it alone, so therefore it can't be done, and the problem is my circumstances. I want you instead resist the urge to go narrow and think you need to do it, because Einstein said together we're genius. I want you to look up and out. I want you to really lead expansive thinking. And a great way to do this is to team source or crowdsource. Put what your barrier is, what you want to accomplish, in just one sentence, and either hang it in the break room on a sheet of paper and ask people for their best tip. They don't have to solve the issue. They just need to give you their next best tip, or put it out online virtually, or send it out to some of your association boards that you can post on. Ask a specific question. How could I make this happen? And just ask people for their best tip. And I think you'll be surprised. You'll get all kinds of things on there. Somebody may say, I went to a conference and met a guy named X, and he might know something about this. Somebody might say, stop by my cube. I have a couple of ideas. Somebody may tell you to search Google for a different word than the one you're using. These can be little, tiny things that add up to big breakthroughs. Welcome to this session of the Roundtable. I am joined by Anna Dorr and Sarah Meese. And we are going to talk about resilience. Now, I brought the two of these folks in to talk about this because they are the poster children for resilience. So once you have a committed individual who's willing, in order to keep them accountable, you really have to work with them to learn resilience. But I haven't had to teach these folks resilience. Resilience is the ability to stay the course and make it happen regardless of whatever crazy circumstances there are. So I often use them as my example of resilience. And so I want to hear first, what are some of your best tips? Sarah, we can throw anything at you, and you just instead of freaking out, you just smile, this kind of Cheshire cat smile, yay. So I'd love to hear, since I use you as a poster child for resilience, what are some of your best tips?
Well, I think of myself as a pretty creative person.
Yeah.
And I like to use resilience and problem solving as my creative outlet. So if
this is such a great reframe. It's not a problem, it's an ability or an opportunity to use my creativity.
When a challenge comes my way, instead of freaking out, I like to think, ooh, a challenge. And my eyes light up and I think, okay, how can we do this? And so if I come up with if a roadblock is thrown in front of me, then I just figure out how to jump over it, go around it, or dig a hole underneath it. So.
It's so true. You guys, Sarah is my chief of staff, and so you're all saying, how does Cy get this done? It's the big question you all ask is, how does Cy get this done? And I tell you, my secret weapon is, Sarah, there are times I'm in 5 cities in 5 different days, and we have a small footprint in this office. And you have had some interesting challenges. Do you have any memorable ones that you can share without ruining my reputation?
I've had a few interesting conversations with taxi cab drivers in different cities. And I'm surprisingly, everybody's incredibly kind and nice and willing to help out in most cases. So if you get back what you put out there, if you're kind and nice when you ask for things, then people are normally willing to help. So just don't be afraid and be nice about it.
I think that's a superpower you have because you just make this assumption that everybody wants to help. And part of being resilient is having as large as possible a group of positive relationships, either that you've had for a while or that you form, and then asking for help. A lot of us, when we're trying to be resilient, we don't ask for help. We like hunker down, like I have to think harder. And you are great. I have to tell this one story on myself. I lost a cell phone in the Chicago airport, which may or may not have happened maybe 10 times in my life in the last year. I don't even know I've lost my cell phone. Sarah calls me and thought, that's weird. If she's supposed to be boarding, that would just go to voicemail because we watch pretty closely for each other's phone calls. So she figures out it is lost, and she knows me pretty well that I might have had a drink near my gate before I got on the plane. So she just looks at the map, calls the nearest bars, and asks if they see a cell phone there, which they do. And she knows I'm flying back through. She talks the bartender into keeping it, and the next day making sure that he's there so I can go back and get my cell phone. And I don't even know I've lost my cell phone yet. I get an email that said, Sai, as you're looking for your cell phone, I've already found it. It's in a bar at the Chicago airport. Stop by. And now that is like resilience. These guys are eerie at not just solving problems when they come up, but pre-solving problems. Anna is scary about this. We're all solving the problem, and she's back there going, well, if they're going with plan B, I'm going to be coming up with plan B, C, and D. She is like the queen of Google searches.
You always need to have some other options out there, just in case the first one is not working. You need a second and a third, maybe a fourth sometimes. So I'm good about that. Also, what you were saying about having a good relationship, a good network, it's very important as well, because so often what happens is that we get so focused on thinking we can totally get this on our own, that we are like looking down instead of looking up and out, and we are like, no, we just really can figure this out on our own. Instead, you could just reach out to some of your network of positive relationships, and you can just link with them on Instagram or on LinkedIn and talk about different ways. On, for instance, now I'm coming up with a podcast for the Spanish community. So what can I better develop that? What things have helped and haven't helped for other people as well? So it's always good to talk to everyone to see what else they can add into the thing that you're looking into.
What I want to highlight about resilience is you guys conserve your energy from drama and venting. You don't even go there. You guys move immediately into how can we make this work, because what does our client need? So even when I do something stupid like lock my keys in the car, these guys don't go, oh, Sai, why do you do this stuff? And they don't complain about their boss who can't manage her way of a paper bag. They just go, okay, let's figure out the easiest way to get her keys back to her, even though she's now in a different city. Let's figure out how to make this happen. And I think that changes the dynamics on our team, because I never feel like I can't call you early and often because you won't judge. And I'm hoping, does that make it easier to come to me when we do screw up or make mistakes?
Yeah, it's so much easier.
Yeah, well, at the pace you travel too, I mean, somebody's got to be watching out for you.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah, I think we need to get you a couple extra sets of keys.
There we go. That's that pre-solving. They're like, they would say, I locked my keys in, instead of blaming me, they would go, what were we thinking only having one set of keys?
We have to think ahead, that's always a thing.
So I tell you what, this is the Reality-Based Dream Team. I love working with them, and we focus a lot on making it happen and not getting caught up in the small stuff, and it's really cool. Thank you for all the situations you guys fix for me. You guys are the fixers.
Keep them coming.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
Thank you so much for keeping us awake every time. It's awesome.
Love it. Someday they'll write the tell-all book about the life of Sai. They're keeping notes. I know they're keeping notes, and it'll be the most humorous, funny book about how the behind-the-scenes story. You just saw us get to our engagements, but behind-the-scenes story. But I'm happy to say, you guys, it is a rare time we've ever missed any type of engagement or work, because we don't take setbacks, lying down. We just see it as the next thing we're gonna conquer. So thank you. I hope you really loved our show on the topic of resilience. It's the new smart. I'm telling you, focus on becoming a super resilient person. You know those blow up clowns that people punch and they go down and come right back up? That's what I want you to have as your mental image, that no matter what comes your way, you conserve the energy of drama, you don't go through surprise, panic, and blame, you stay out of ego, and you just look at all the possibilities and you reach out to all the incredible people in your life and you ask for ideas and suggestions and then enjoy your breakthroughs. I would love to hear about a time where you were resilient by picking the brains of other people and how you could do work differently so that you achieved greater success. Let me know the stories in the comments.